Ho ho ho! Merry Christmas and welcome to the Christmas ROM Hack Marathon fan game thingy of 2022. It's me, Santa Claus, and I hope you've all been very good this year because the naughty list is full of all kinds of naughty things like Saints Row 5. Yes, very naughty indeed. Ho ho! Or what about Gotham Knights? Yes, there will definitely be some coal in your stocking this year, yes. Very naughty frame rate indeed. Very naughty optimized, sub-optimized CPU performance. Oh yes. Santa watches Digital Foundry. Now I've already said this in a video in early November, but in case you missed that video, I'm gonna re-explain to you how this is gonna go down, and then I'm gonna talk about the first ROM hack of the month. If you've only joined the Beano Federation in the last year, you may not be familiar with this, so consider this a quick rundown. Every December since 2019, I've tried to do a daily marathon thing where every day until Christmas Day, I make a video talking about a ROM hack or a fan game that I happen to enjoy. Selections for which ROM hacks or fan games I discuss are kinda done on the fly and typically consist of random stuff that I happened upon in my own time and games that were recommended to me, and as usual, I'm open to any suggestions you might have. So if you got any suggestions for me, now's the time to ask because I might still be able to fit it in. But then again, I might not. And some of that will depend on whether or not you've been naughty or nice. You got 24 days of the marathon left, so send those letters to Beano's comment section and I'll be sure to read them. And with all that holly jolly Christmas explanation out of the way, it's finally time to talk about today's ROM hack. Zelda. 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 Without Zelda, none of these games exist, but when it comes to Zelda itself, I am not a huge fan. People say this game was revolutionary, that it was an adventure, and to some extent that was very true, but by today's standards, the game is just a little bit janky and wonky, like most NES titles. But the game does have a save feature, which never works because the battery died in 1997. Let's be real here. Everybody knows the only good NES game is Metroid. Actually, scratch that. The only good video game in general is Metroid. But let's pretend for a second that Mario and Zelda are good video games too. Nobody actually believes that sincerely, they're just being polite because it's Christmas. But we're gonna play pretend for the purposes of this ROM hack. It's called The Legend of Super Mario 64. And even though it's based on two Nintendo properties that aren't Metroid, the hack is pretty fun. As you may have guessed, this is a ROM hack of Super Mario 64 that puts Mario in the land of The Legend of Zelda for the NES. It's a brief, fun love letter to the original Zelda. The story is that Bowser has entered the world of Hyrule and somehow Ganon possessed him from beyond the spirit realm and Bowser is kinda fighting to retain his own free will or something. Link cannot save the world this time because apparently he cannot jump, which is only half true. He can kinda jump when he runs towards a ledge and he could jump in the beta version, but that's not the point. The point is that it's a very beautiful and subtle story that doesn't tell you every single detail in exhaustive depth, which is a fancy way of saying the story is barely there at all and doesn't really matter at all. At all. At all. The dialogue, more so than the details of the story, is one of the most memorable things about the hack. You got this Toad right at the beginning who calls Link a dumbass for not being subscribed to Dimple Dicks, and whenever you get a star, it goes, "Hey, look, a star. Ballin'." Come on, ROM hacks, don't you know the kids these days are saying straight bussin', no cap? Jeez. Get with it, Grandpa. Bowser's got some dialogue too, which includes the words pesky plumbers, so I imagine him using his voice from the Super Mario Bros. Super Show, which automatically makes it more funny.
I gotta do something about those pesky plumbers!
Yeah, dude. I'm a voice actor. He also kinda helps you and calls you Bud, which almost makes it sound like taking over Hyrule is just an extended bit that he's doing just to make Mario's day more interesting. It's a goofy story, and it's 100 times better than Color Splash. Gameplay-wise, the game is pretty much just Mario 64, but the true shining jewel of this game is the effort put into making the game look like the OG Zelda. The textures are the most obvious part of it, and they have committed to this look to a much greater degree degree than a lot of similar hacks. But the thing I like the most is the coins, which aren't coins at all. They're rupees, but not real life rupees, which are the actual currency of India. I'm talking Zelda rupees, because it's a Zelda hack, you dingus. Apparently, inflation has hit the local economy particularly hard, and 100 rupees can't even buy a star, so that's pretty depressing. It's not a full recreation of the original map. As cool as that would have been, I imagine that would have been a huge pain in the ass. It's more of a greatest hits kind of compilation level, where a lot of the familiar architecture and landmarks of the original game are recreated in 3D, and it does actually have a great sense of verticality, which is good. There's nothing better than verticality. Horizontality is alright, I'm not dissing that, but I mean, up and down? That's the real shit, baby. The UI has also been updated in many ways, my favorite being the life meter, which is just like Zelda Return of the Corrupted save file. There are at least 2 endings from what I understand. There's the good ending you get when you collect every single star, and then there's the other one that happens when you don't get every star, which I don't have footage of because I'm just way too good at the game. I think for me though, the biggest problem with this ROM hack is the broken quiz section. It asks what the objectively best Zelda game is, and even though Majora's Mask is an option, the game does not seem to recognize it as the correct choice. According to the game, the best Zelda is Link to the Past, and according to me, whoever made this is a bitch. My other big problem with this hack is just that it's small. There are only 3 levels if you count the final boss arena, which I do because the final boss is actually pretty ballin', to quote the ROM hack. But then you have the soundtrack, which is phenomenal. It's one thing to replicate an existing song with a different sound font, but to make it actually sound badass in its own right at the same time is another achievement entirely. And ROM hacks are often very good at this. To some extent, I would almost prefer to listen to this version as opposed to the original versions of the songs they're based on. The Legend of Super Mario 64 is a brief but very fun ROM hack and a nice love letter to the original Zelda that nobody actually likes, even though they're pretending to. And it's also a lot of fun, so I'm giving this one the Santa Bino seal of approval. Remember, it's not too late to write a comment to Santa Bino if you want to see something on this marathon, or even in the near future afterwards. Otherwise, ho ho ho! This has been the first day of the Phantom Beano Christmas Special of 2022. And if you enjoyed what you saw, please drop some Christmas carols in the chat so we can all have a nice sing-along. Ho ho! And remember to tune in tomorrow and every day until Christmas. I bet you can't guess tomorrow's episode. Otherwise, Merry Christmas, y'all.